I think it's time to talk about a little bit of Russian disinformation and the Tenet Media controversy. So this is the other big cancel thing that happened this past week, and there's multiple layers to it that I kind of want to get into. By the way, everyone, if you guys want to dig into the articles that we're discussing in this live stream, all the links are in the description. But had you guys ever heard of Tenet Media before? Because they were basically a YouTube network that was started by Lauren Chen and her husband, a very prominent right-wing commentator. And they basically recruited a bunch of kind of right-leaning YouTubers and podcasters to kind of be part of their network. And recently, the DOJ came out and basically said that these people were falsifying their stances. They were being financed by Russia Today, aka RT, which is basically Russia's version of PBS, or NPR, I should say. And basically, they misrepresented themselves to a bunch of these right-wing commentators and were actively spreading Russian propaganda and misinformation and disinformation. And this was kind of like a weird situation, because I'm going to kind of lay this out for you guys. But real quick, full disclosure, I don't know if you guys remember this, but I used to write for RT back in years ago.
Right.
Well, we found the spy.
Yes, I know, right?
we got him. We accused him of being a Russian asset back then. It's like,
let's see how good you say Tenet Media is. They're innocent. They're okay. It's all a
misunderstanding. Comrade.
They're cool, yeah.
I'm nice to see you again, comrade.
Yeah, so I used to write editorials for RT, and they did pay me for the editorials, but I'd have to go to them and pitch them an idea, and if they approved of it, then they'd pay me, and then I'd deliver the article. But that was back when Trump was in office. I don't even know what year I was working for them, but I'm sure you can still find it if you do a Google search. My articles should still be up there. But what was interesting about this is that what the DOJ did was they were keeping an eye on these two former or current RT employees who were basically spending tens of millions of dollars with Tenet Media in order to fund them. And what I thought was interesting is that, Lauren Chen, who, I followed for a number of years, she's been a big YouTuber, she's pretty, she's from Canada, all that stuff. She was acting really weird on Twitter. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but her tweets were all very kind of counter to what, the MAGA movement was doing and the Maha movement was doing and stuff like that. And she seemed to be kind of taking a contrary stance to a bunch of stuff. And I thought that was kind of weird. And then this news comes out. And what's interesting about this is that YouTube took down Tenet Media and all of its related channels. And people have been targeting the people who are in that network, who include Tim Pool, Lauren Southern, and Dave Rubin, a bunch of other people, and basically said that they were manipulated into pushing Russian talking points. But then you go and you hear from these guys, and they're like, well, they never told us what we could and couldn't, post on the channel. It was mostly a kind of loosely affiliated network thing. But the really interesting thing here is about how YouTube basically takes these things down. And despite the DOJ coming out and not actively saying that Tenet Media was the company, I think in the indictment it referred to Tenet Media as Company One or something like that. But Tenet Media was not charged or indicted with any crime, okay? The actual indictment is about not registering as a foreign agent for these two people from RT that were giving Tenet Media all this money. That was the only thing that they were able to kind of get these guys with. They said that there's money laundering involved, but they didn't actually charge money laundering. So this whole thing was kind of like a weird technicality, basically, where they're like, okay, we have these guys from Russia paying these other guys, and they didn't register with the State Department that they work for Russia. And that was what the indictment was about. And Tenet Media did, in fact, misrepresent themselves to their network. They didn't tell the people who signed on that they were getting money from the Russians. They just called them investors and stuff like that. So obviously everyone involved in Tenet Media now has egg on their face, and basically all their like, maybe right-leaning or pro-Trump positions have been undermined by saying like, oh, they were paid to support Trump from the Russians. And so like this was basically the DOJ's way of presenting an indictment that furthers this Russian election interference narrative by making a mountain out of a molehill and basically smearing all these big name YouTubers that support policies opposite to the current administration. And if you look at social media and you just Google Tenet Media or like whatever, it's very interesting to see the reaction, because it got the reaction that the Justice Department wanted. It basically undermined all these like big name YouTubers like Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and stuff like that. And YouTube once again acted where it was just like, it wasn't even an accusation, right? Or it was just based on an accusation. Like there was no legal proceeding, there was no conviction. There was nothing that actually lended credence to what the DOJ was alleging that happened here. If anything, it was just like bad behavior and misrepresentation on Tenet Media's part. But YouTube decided to basically nuke all their channels, and just very unceremoniously. Luckily, the people who got caught up in this haven't been too greatly affected on YouTube. Like Tim Pool still has all his channels, Dave Rubin still has all of his channels, et cetera, et cetera. But it does kind of like make you think, it's like, okay, like what if you had like a sponsor who it was found out that, they did something bad, and because you had like a sponsored read in your video, now YouTube can just take you down. Like there's a lot of moving parts of this, but I want to get the panel's take on this. Odin, what's your take on this whole Tenet Media thing?
Yeah, it's kind of just crazy when you think about it. And I think that neither side, in my opinion, really looks all that great as far as like the members like who are directly involved. So in the case of the DOJ, right, the fact that it's coming out at a very specific point in time already makes it look like it was done for a political reason, right? I mean, I'm not saying that there's no injustice that's been done or that there are not charges that should be necessarily brought, but they definitely think the timing of it is a little bit too convenient in certain ways and in certain lights. I think also the instant reactions that were received from it, as you mentioned, when it comes to the actual indictment, Lauren Chen and her husband, they have not been directly implicated or charged with anything, and yet they were directly canceled on basically all of their platforms. At the same time, I don't think they look great either, because neither one of them, and again, it might be for legal reasons and we can never insinuate blame on silence, but they have not said anything at all. They've been completely silent about it. And I think that the world that we live in today, if you are going to try to really get out ahead of the message, if you're really going to try to beat back in some way all of the misinformation that's come out, the best way to do that is to try to take it head on. But again, obviously this is still a movie situation, and silence does not indicate necessarily anything at all, right? We have rights in this country that allow for people to not have to worry about speaking. But yeah, it's a bizarre situation overall, and I think YouTube's actions especially are really troubling, because the fact that they will delete, in the case of Tenet, as you mentioned, it was just some of the money that went into the company, but it didn't seem like it really implicated necessarily the people at the top of that said company, right, in any way to the point where they would actually want to convict them of anything, or they would want to charge them with anything. And so that's already kind of weird that they're using that as a way to justify getting rid of Tenet. But then also going after their individual channels makes no sense either. And it's not even just that they went after Lauren Chen, they also went after was it Tyler Christensen or what's his name? The other conservative
Taylor Hansen.
Taylor Hansen, that's what it is, Taylor Hansen. They also like went after his channel as well. And so it's just very weird. I know there's like been some back and forth on that, where there's some claims, like it's like a community post on X where it mentions something to the effect that was related to the Tenet channel and not related to his personal channel. He fought back and said no, it actually was his personal channel that was impacted. Either way, though, it just doesn't look good. Obviously, I don't like when any foreign country or foreign agents are going to try to influence anything. But also, I love how the biggest irony about all of this is the fact that one of the charges that was put out there was the Russians were trying to get involved to create disruptions in our political conversations, to create turmoil during an election year. And what did they do? They went about and made turmoil even more so during an election year. So it's almost like, hey, DOJ, if you're going to imply any type of cooperation, by any of these people in any way, even if it's like a very like, 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon situation. Hey, no one has done more to damage the conversation in our country than the DOJ. Not even just in this specific instance, but in all the previous ones as well. The only difference, I guess you could say, is the money. But then again, we could also make questions about where some money is coming from in regards to our current politicians as well. But yeah, that's my thought.
Oh, wouldn't that be something?
And it is important to point out what you talked about there, Odin, is that Lauren Chen and her husband didn't do anything illegal, really.
Right.
Like they weren't laundering money. Like they were reporting the finances on their taxes, and it was basically like the only thing that they're really guilty of is they didn't tell the people that they signed on to their network that they were taking money from from Russians essentially. So they were a little bit misrepresentative with the people that they brought on board the network, but that's not necessarily illegal either, right? Mm-hmm. So I want to throw this to Tom. The biggest thing about this is that like it was very, kind of like October surprisey with the DOJ coming out about this and basically trying what this indictment really did was undermine all the critics of the current administration. Like they tried to paint them as being in the pocket of the Russians, even though the actual indictment itself is just saying that these guys who were sending Tenet Media money didn't register as foreign agents, which is like kind of like a little technicality type thing. But it did what they wanted it to do, which is basically like dismiss the credibility of like pretty much all these people who were associated with the network in an election year. So you have to.
I'm sorry. Are they trying to start like a new Russiagate kind of thing, saying Russia's trying to influence our conservative media influencers? Is that what the gist of this is?
That's what they're doing. Yeah,
basically saying like anyone who supports Trump is being fed misinformation and disinformation by Russian assets. Essentially,
this is why I don't pay attention to this crap, because it's all nonsense. Gotcha.
What's confusing is, what do they do legal? Why were they banned? Like, what's the reason for their ban?
Well, here's the thing. So, like, I'm going to throw this to Tom. So, Tom, in the indictment from the DOJ, Tenet Media was not named at all. It was referred to as a Tennessee company number one. They were not actually listed in the actual indictment. And yet YouTube basically made the assumption that, like, okay, based off of these victims, it's pretty clear, like, who they were referring to in the indictment, even though they didn't do anything illegal. Because the DOJ said that they were spreading Russian disinformation during election year, YouTube decides to nuke their channel. Do you find that disturbing at all?
Absolutely. And I mean, I guess full disclosure, I mean, obviously a couple of us on the panel know Lauren or have streamed with her before, Lauren Chen, that is. So, I mean, clearly I have a bias going into my opinions with this, and I'm not going to comment too much on it simply because
Tom's a foreign agent.
it's yes, that's true. No, I just think it's very sus, and everything you just said was pretty correct in that it feels like a hit job by the government or others involved, right along the lines with everything else we're seeing out there, right? I mean, not to jump away from the main point, but I mean, it's the same thing with everything else, whether it's the pet thing, whether it's the baby thing, whether it's whatever. Certain people get quote unquote fact check on, but other people don't. Yeah, it's extremely one-sided. So even though I'm upfront about my bias my opinions over the situation and how I think somebody probably is innocent or had no idea what was going on, or how this whole thing feels like a lot like what they did to Trump, basically drum up a bunch of charges. And even people like Judge Judy are going, I'm stretching to find the charge here. Like, look, I get it. She's not a judge anymore, but she was at one time. Go ahead.
The thing that binds these guys all together, though, right, is they're all Trump supporters. Is that accurate?
I don't think Lauren Chen is, but yeah.
I mean, she used to be, but there's been some things lately.
Pro-Trump influencer Lauren Chen accused.
See, that's the
pushing Russian
part,
propaganda.
Yeah,
is that she used to be, but like Kadish said, a lot of the things that she's been saying lately have kind of been. Or not lately, but just she has her own opinion, it seems, at times, to where there's times where she has come out against Trump.
I was listening to a thing last night. I think it was on who's the blonde chick used to be on Fox? I forget her name. Also, Megyn Kelly.
Yeah,
and they were talking about Lauren Chen, and there was a guy on her show that said that she's like all of a sudden came out like really anti-Semitic and anti-Israel here recently,
of course,
in the last year or so. So, and that all came out. She like flipped on a dime. It was like really quick, and all of a sudden she's like spewing all these weird anti-Israel things out of the blue. So all of a sudden, and that was when they like said she started getting money from this Russian thing, right? So I don't know. It just seems very, very, very weird, very strange.
What's funny is they like to, claim everything is a conspiracy theory on one side, but there can never be any kind of cover-ups or, false accusations made on the other side at all,
They also insinuate that just because one's conservative, that makes them automatically pro-Trump. And the beauty of those that are more independent-minded, or even a lot of people that can consider themselves to be conservative, there's a lot more diversity of opinion, especially when it comes to political leaders. And whereas on the other side, you have mostly a cult-like devotion to specific people, and there's no real diversity of thought.
Party above all, yeah. No, and that's just it. It's like, the funny thing is if you think about it, if it was Russia or anything involved with Russia, why the hell would they want Trump in office? Right? Like, that's the thing that never made any sense to me. Exactly. Why? Duh.
Because he can
I think we all know the answer why. Because Trump's a friggin' gangster. That's why.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is with the, A, not with an ER. Because I'm sure you all heard what he did to the head of the Taliban.
Right, yeah.
He gave the head of the Taliban
gangsta shit.
He gave the head of the Taliban a picture of the guy's house.
Yeah.
You missed the part. He goes,
Mr.
not
President,
one
why are you showing me a
American.
picture of your house?
He goes, if one more American dies, you will die. And the interpreter, like, eyes lit up, and he goes, tell him. And then he starts telling him, and he just, as he's telling him, he just slides a picture of his house across the table. And the guy goes, why are you showing me a picture of of my house? He goes, ask your wife, and walks out the room. That's some fucking gangsta shit right there. I'm sorry.
Super gangsta, yeah.
Well,
Ain't nobody gonna screw with that guy because he's just telling you, we're gonna come after you, right?
I want to throw this to Reaper because as someone a citizen of the UK, he has an outside kind of like take on this. But Reaper, you guys over there across the pond are dealing with your own stuff about mean tweets getting you jail time and stuff like that. What's your take on this whole Tenet Media situation?
Oh, we're the experts of locking people up for wrong speak.
Right.
I think we lock 10 times more people up than Russia does.
Wow.
Which is funny. Yeah, I think it was 3,000 people said the wrong thing, went to jail. Well, it was said before, it's the Russia allegations is clearly being used to weaponize. It's being dropped this close to the election because you want to influence and make Kamala Harris look better. But it's just like the allegation is just enough because even though, like, take the Me Too stuff that happened years ago, you didn't have to have any evidence. You didn't have to have any actual witness or go to court or go to the police. You just accuse someone. He loses his sponsorship, his deals, his touring dates, everything. It happened to Russell Brand. But I'll tell you what, though, what made the situation a lot worse is when Tim Pool was going, I don't take money from foreign governments. And then Ben Shapiro popped up going, here's some, give us money to support Israel. That couldn't have been more comedic times, better anything.
That's true.
Yeah, Reaper, just to clarify, Tim Pool was interviewed by Ben Shapiro about these allegations, and in the middle, Ben Shapiro, like, he never loses a chance to do a sponsorship read, and he mistimed the sponsorship read to basically be hypocritical of what Tim was just saying, right?
Right. I saw that. But to be fair, Ben always puts a sponsor in there.
Yeah, but now when right-wing people are clearly being like targeted and there's a big witch hunt going on, you go, I'll put the foreign government sponsorship right next to the guy going, I don't take foreign money. It was the stupidest. Like, you couldn't even get an intern to double check it. He's got the money. He's an idiot.
Well, and on the Me Too thing, look at finally you got like Francis Ford Coppola fighting back, right? Because it looked like it was a cancel campaign going on in him. Now I don't have all the logistics if there really was any shenanigans going down, but to the best of the evidence that I've seen, there wasn't. And there's somebody who's trying to sue him, but he's like, F this. He's going after Variety, right? So I mean, that's one place to start with this crap. I don't know if he'll win, but.
I think people have learned apologies don't do anything. You have to actually have consequences. Like, because every time it's like one accuser or one allegation, then suddenly 5 weeks later, it's about 500 people come out. So you've got to stamp on the ashes before it becomes a fire on the embers.
Yeah. But how do you fight back against YouTube, Reaper? Because like if YouTube just decides to deplatform you based off of no legal charges, just based off of accusations, like what recourse does someone have?
Well, yeah, none. They purposely don't tell you anything, so you can't actually go, well, you've accused me of this, but here's the evidence. It's all intentionally vague, so you can drop you for any reason, and you can't fight back.
Yeah.
The only route you can really go is alternative, and like Nick Fuentes is coming back on Twitter. He was persona non grata everywhere. So I suppose that, and then afterwards he's slowly coming back, and I think that's really the only recourse is basically go to other sites, stay popular, wait for it to die down, come back.
Yeah, my problem is TOS should not be retroactive. Like you shouldn't be able to make a new rule and then make it a retroactive thing, especially when someone has thousands of videos and thousands of hours of streaming. Like, oh, you can't do this, or you can't say this, or you can't show this anymore on your videos. Except for you're making that rule retroactive, and I have a catalog of 10 years of videos. Oh, well, what do you do about that? Do you just wipe your account every time the TOS changes?
People do it Twitter. That's the new thing. Everyone goes back and checks their Twitter and makes sure that they haven't said, because every time someone gets a Star Wars show, all these usually like the black women go, oh no, I've had to shut down my account because of racism, not because, I've said horrible things about white people.
Right.
And I think that's the new standard. Everyone who suddenly becomes famous is going to just delete all the history and start again.
Well, speaking of deleting history, Brian, I wanted to ask you, so one of the Tenet Media personalities was this independent journalist named Taylor Hanson. And it came out that basically YouTube had nuked his channel. And he came out and he was like, hey, YouTube, no one else got their channel deleted. Why are you deleting my channel? And basically, when YouTube went after Tenet Media, they not only took down the main Tenet Media channel, but they took down all the channels that Tenet Media was managing. And one of them was a channel dedicated to Taylor Hanson, but they hadn't actually posted anything on there. So everyone's like, why was his personal channel taken down? And then YouTube came out and said, oh, we didn't take his channel down. He self-deleted it. And then Hansen came back and publicly said, like, why would I ever take my YouTube channel down? It's like, yeah, I'm on Rumble now because I got kicked off YouTube, but like YouTube is where everyone's at. It's where all the money's at. Why would I kick myself in the nuts by deleting my own channel? It doesn't make any sense. And so there's a lot of controversy around this because like, this is a independent journalist who's been very much about like, debunking a lot of the January 6th stuff and like a bunch of these other things. And it just sounds like it's very convenient that YouTube would say like, oh, this guy is responsible for taking his own channel down. When we all know that like YouTube, like they don't play fair, right?
Right. My only thing is, and I'm not saying he's lying, but when you go to his old videos, it doesn't say what it normally says when a YouTube channel has been banned. It does say like this video was deleted. And it's almost like would YouTube change the message just for his channel, just to sort of push the narrative that he deleted his own stuff? Because I did go back to an old playlist, and every one of the videos said this has been deleted by the user. It didn't say what it normally says when a channel's been banned. What we've all seen, this channel's been terminated. That's not what the message said. So maybe they did wipe it, but like that message that comes up when you go to one of those old one of those old video links does seem sort of sus, because it says this video is no longer available. It's been deleted by the user, which is confusing to me.
Yeah.
The other problem with this
I'm not saying they didn't do anything wrong. I'm saying that's sort of suspect.
Well, I think the bigger problem here is that YouTube likes to act like it's not even a thing. Like if you try to get a hold of anybody or talk to anybody, they say, well, there is no YouTube. It's not like there's, anybody who runs the company or anything like that. They pretend like it's Walmart and South Park, right? Like we're the heart of it, basically. Go ahead, Reaper.
Well, you can get just random employees. You can get random employees just taking advantage of this. Sorry, my voice went. So I was just saying, you can get random employees who just go off the wire, take advantage of the situation, fire people, and just do what they want. And then you have to go up to their boss to try and undo what they did.
Yeah, good luck finding their boss. When my main channel got to 100K, I got my YouTube rep, and it was this lovely woman in the middle of like the Philippines. And she gets on video with me. There's literally like chickens in the background. I'm not joking. And she's trying to walk me through a PowerPoint. The FPS is like 420p resolution. And she's telling me how to activate ads. And I'm like, I don't understand. Do we get a YouTube rep? She goes, yes, rep. Thank you. And then she hangs up the phone, and I'm like, "That's it? That's the rep? That's our rep?" And that was the last conversation we ever had with them, dude. So like, I'm not even sure there are, I think YouTube just sort of picks and chooses who it supports and who it promotes and who it doesn't.
It's all AI.
There are no actual humans at YouTube.
There's no humans.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, bro, it was an actual woman, like in like the Philippines. There was chickens in the background. It was surreal. It was surreal.
Mr. Butters, have you ever watched any of Lauren Chen's videos?
No.
What's your take on this 10 minute?
No, I watch cartoons, dude. I play video games, and I watch Looney Tunes to go to sleep to at night. So, yeah.
Well, let's be honest. Nobody watches Lauren Chen for her opinion.
That's right.
She isn't a very attractive woman. I just looked at a picture of her. She's a hot chick.
Because
I usually enjoyed her takes. Like, again, I wouldn't say that I went to her every single day, but there'd sometimes be topics that she would speak about in a way that maybe others in the space weren't talking about. So I guess I always appreciated her perspective on things not being the exact same as everybody else's.
I think you appreciated that she was an attractive woman. Because when you look into it, they say the same things. They go, yeah, I disagree. They go, yeah, but she's hot.
Yeah, she is really hot.
I spend my time online watching Brian talk about things.
That's
Tom
right.
Talk about things.
Yeah.
So, I got ugly bald guys to watch, not hot chicks. Like,
it's true.
Well, then you have to say good stuff. Because if you don't say good stuff, no one's going to watch it.
But what you didn't know is Tom is actually getting paid by Russia.
Is that true? I can't watch Tom.
I own a Russian company called Netflix, where we have our own Netflix because they shut us down here. So
And
because of
YouTube.
this, now listen, we only have 3 cassette tapes right now, but I come to your house and we watch movie together, and that's Netflix. Anytime you want to watch it. We are having Back to the Future on video cassette. We did have a copy of Top Gun, but somebody taped over it with a soccer ball game. I was very upset with this. So we don't have that no more. But working on getting more tapes, I might get Bambi.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Well, to Reaper's point, though, like attractive women do have an easier time succeeding on YouTube than
This
that
is true.
bald. So, like, we know this for a fact.
I have a question though. Why was Lauren Chen fired by the Blaze? Why did the Blaze fire? Like what? And then I'm just gonna maybe you've already answered this, but like, what did she do illegal? Is it illegal to take money from companies in another country?
She didn't do anything illegal, but she misrepresented what her company was to the people that she brought on board. And basically, Blaze didn't want anything to do with her after that. In fact, and Dutch Butters mentioned Megyn Kelly earlier. When Megyn Kelly gave her breakdown of this thing, like she badmouthed Lauren Chin left and right. She's like, I never got a good feeling from that girl. I always felt like she was fake. And
you can tell there was animosity there, dude. Like,
yeah, there was a lot of
that too. And I had to turn it off after a bit because I was like, oh, this just comes across as you have a personal beef, and you're like, now's my chance to finally say the things that I want to say. Yeah, basically.
Well, two women fighting over who's more attractive. That's why.
I listen. I only watch news from hot chicks that show us a little leg on the screen.
I do think that with the Blaze though, like, because I'm obviously going to be and have been critical of DOJ and things of that nature, but I have to also kind of be critical of the Blaze because isn't this also all allegations at this point and not actually something that's been necessarily proven?
Right, and they fired her like immediately. I just think it's very odd that all within a 12-hour period. Banned, fired, and you're like, whoa, hold up, no one's asking questions.
So,
I mean, that's a cool comment on YouTube. Except for I'm looking at an article right now in the Blaze that says she was let go as a contributor. So, like, I don't know which one to believe.
You can't
the comment on YouTube or the Blaze.media.
It's almost like, I feel like there's a point where it gets very close to the Gina Carano thing where it's like, Disney, there were those people going crazy like, Disney didn't fire her. She was a contract. And it's like, bro. It's like, if you're not renewing their contract, I'm looking at the announcement on Blaze.media. They would be there. That's the same as firing. Come on.
Blaze.media cut ties to her. And like all within a 12-hour period. Oh, you were accused of taking money from a company in Russia. First off, I'm not even sure how that's illegal in the first place. How is that illegal? And secondly, you misrepresenting yourself. Well, zero information, nothing but pure accusations, not even named in the indictment. Fired, banned, fired.
I guess
hold the phone. And I'm not even a simp for these people. I literally just learned about what they look like today. What I'm saying is, like, before you just go balls to the wall, banning and firing people and taking away their livelihood, maybe look into it for more than 12 hours. Like, holy shit, dude, that doesn't make any sense.
But my only thing is this something that we're going to have to listen to in the news for the next 3.5-4 years, like the whole Russian gate thing, or is this just some election season noise that's going to go away in a little while?
It's going to go away. Whoever, as soon as they win, if they win, this won't be an issue anymore. It's like election interference is only an issue when they're not elected.
Right, Brian, I'll tell you what's going to happen. If Trump wins, it's going to be an issue. If Harris wins, they're going to go after more people because they're going to make it into an issue. So it's we lose either way.